This podcast is brought to you by the Washington State Department of Health. As we continue to listen, learn, and grow, we are amplifying Black voices and perspectives in an effort to start a new COVID-19 vaccine conversation. We're sharing stories intended to help us navigate this unprecedented time together and to co-create solutions in support of the Black community. Hear these stories at weconsiderwa.org.
$20 million, $19 million, $6 million. These are all awards recovered for clients of Phillips Law Firm. To win big, you have to fight big. And Phillips Law has been fighting the too-big-to-fail insurance industry for decades. Not every case will have a multi-million-dollar outcome, but Phillips Law will fight just as hard to recover the outcome you deserve. If you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or on the job, call or click today at 1-800-JUSTICE or visit justiceforyou.com.
What's up? It's your boy, The Ted Smith. Thanks for listening to the Men's Room Daily Podcast. Want more? Check out the greatest podcast in all the land, The Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and listen to a brand new episode every Tuesday night.
The shenanigans continue. This is the Men's Room with Miles and Thrill. 99.9 KISW.
As we continue our celebration of 50 years of KISW, head to the Rock Shop. Baseball about 1 month away. Pick up the 50th anniversary limited edition KISW baseball tee. Available now in the Rock Shop. Ready for some baseball. I'm ready for some baseball. Mariners, unbelievable today. They put up 5 runs. The other team put up 17.
Hey, let's not count that.
They did it like they do in Little League, where they send everybody home after the 7th inning.
Mercy
like
rule.
The 10-run rule. Like
you are a professional athlete, and you're playing so poorly, they still call it. Like,
I'm not sure that shouldn't be an actual rule in baseball.
Man, of all the sports, I agree. Dude,
maybe 15 runs, Ted? Is that appropriate, do you think?
I mean, what's it in Little League? 10, right?
Yeah. But, I mean, you could come back from a 10-run deficit.
You could. You won't.
Right. And you got 163 of them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You're going to skip out on this game. Let's try it again next week.
Either way, let your freak flag fly there. Pick up the brand new KISW baseball tee in the Rock Shop at KISW.com. All right, a question, good or bad, what about you from your past? Always gets brought up. 206-421-ROCK.
By the way, Candy, if you are still listening, I just want you to know you have a lot of supporters out there. Woo! In fact, if you show up at a bar and people realize that you are the Candy that called this show, as best I can see, everyone is going to buy you a beer.
Sweet.
People are on that.
People
is that a pun?
Love Candy Beaver.
They do like Candy Beaver. Now, someone else checked in. Candy, don't feel bad about your name. Someone else says, I knew a Candy Dyke.
Oh, no.
That was her name, Candy Dyke. I will.
Hey, whatever it takes to stop the water.
I will not say the nickname they came up with for her, but it was funny.
I bet the guy that plays for the Heat will.
Hello, Andy. Welcome to the Men's Room.
Hola, gentlemen.
Hola.
How you guys doing? Hey, man, I appreciate all you guys, man. I listen to you every day on the way home from work.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Appreciate it, man.
More enjoyable on my way home, that's for sure. So, here's my story. So I was like 15 or 16. Me and my buddies would go to this elementary school, and they had like 7-foot hoops. And we would go dunk, do all the cool stuff. Well, I'm like 6 foot, dude, when I'm like 5'11", or when I was 16. And anyways, I got in an argument with this guy about not getting dunked on. Couldn't have been 5 minutes later, man. This dude shows up, and the best way I can describe him is like Forrest Gump, man. He was like 5'10" or 5'11", and he shows up, and he's like, "It's game time, baby." He talked like, it was all weird, man, but he was like functional, and he was like athletic, but he's a little on the heavy side. And yeah, man, this dude dunked on me bad. I mean, it was bad. I hear about I'm almost 40, and I hear about it like 6 times a year from
You still hear about it.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, getting dunked on sucks.
Yeah, no, it was all bad, especially by this. And then to make it worse, he wrapped his legs around my waist and like hung on the hoop. This is a 7-foot hoop or something.
Sure, why not? He's doing it like a pro. Don't want to break his ankle on the way down.
Jesus.
Yeah, my feelings were hurt though.
Hey, don't feel bad. Miles used to we used to call this guy Mr. Green. All right, because we'd see him at the gym, and this guy, I mean, he could play. Like, we knew this dude could bowl, but we called him Mr. Green. And I don't remember how this came about, but we are playing. He is on the opposite team of Miles and I. And I know we were fairly friendly with the guy. Yeah. I told him to call him Mr. Green because 9 times out of 10, he wore all green when he worked out at the gym, right? So that wasn't, I don't remember what you said, Miles, but I remember in this game, homeboy went up and dunked on your ass. And I mean,
I was talking crap.
Just to make a point.
I only met the dude once at the comedy club.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
But he was like 6'2". He could definitely get up. And I mean, he could take the he had springs, so he basically launched himself in the paint.
But it was personal.
And I mean, like
it was personal because it was Miles, and I even said something to him about the Mr. Green nickname, and he was kind of like, "Yeah, nah, like I don't really like it."
so when he jumped over top of me, basically I could feel his Woodrow scraping my forehead because he just went straight over the top, leg spread, and went ga-gung, ga-gung. And I was like, oh, God.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was personal. It was that one game.
Dude, today's the anniversary of some crazy dunk, too. It's like the Clippers and somebody. Is it Jordan? Not Michael Jordan. Somebody else last name Jordan. But like Chris Paul throws an alley-oop, and somebody's just sitting there and goes up for it, and it's just brutal.
Yeah.
It's like the Lob City days, and same thing, just kind of like, ooh.
You just don't want to be the other guy in the clip. You know, like here in Seattle, people lose their minds anytime they show, and they will always show, the beast mode run. Because you got to remember, Seattle was, 7-9, whatever it was. Getting to the playoffs, you don't have a shot. You're going up against last year's Super Bowl champs, the New Orleans Saints. And he puts that run on him, right? Now, again, if you're a Seattle fan, you go like, wow. And look, if you're a football fan, that is one of the baddest ass runs you'll ever see. Shout out for the grab your groin going backwards over the goal. I love it. I know he got flagged. I think it's awesome. But I also think to myself, there's like 5 or 6 Saint players that seriously hate that. Not the Saints that played in that game that did not get their face mushed.
Sure.
But all the guys who just got thrown to the ground by their face. So every time you watch it, I'm like, it's not so much watching him go beast mode. I was looking at all those guys from the Saints. I want to see their last names. Like, man.
What about the famous
infamy?
Well, what about the famous Kemp one where he's just pointing at the dude on the ground after he dunks?
Oh God!
Well,
yeah,
the difference on Marshawn is that clip's going to come up all the time. We went to
every year.
We went to a game when the Ravens came to town one year, and I mean, Marshawn made a lateral move on Ray Lewis, and Ray Lewis's knees and his ankles buckled, and he just kind of fell to the ground. Marshawn Lynch just runs around him for 15 more yards, right? You don't see that highlight.
Because he didn't get a touchdown.
Exactly. But that one, anybody who he hit through a side, flipped off,
I mean, it was pathetic.
You know, it's like just...
You got the clip today? Let's see.
I do. Tell me this isn't brutal.
All right. Oh! In your face!
I think it's DeAndre Jordan over Brandon Knight.
Even the kids.
Hang on, Mike. I mean, just right, getting posted.
Eat it. Good or bad, what about you from your past always gets brought up. 206-421-ROCK.
Yeah, when the kids, the fancy kids sitting courtside are going crazy and hiding under their shirts, like, that's a nasty dunk.
I won't describe the kids, but when those kids had their face under the shirt, I'll just leave it at that. You've really done some damage, man. Hello, Greg. Welcome to the men's room.
Liquor and whores.
Liquor and whores.
Happy Chinooka.
Happy Chinooka.
Happy Chinooka.
So this is 2006, 2007 time frame. I'm just trying to fit in with this group of people that I've been hanging out with, and I was homeschooled from the 7th grade to the 11th grade, so this whole extra outing was unique to me, and I loved it, right? So we were smoking a lot of hookah and doing all that whole frame time. And one of the guys was telling a story, and I wanted to kind of impress him, so I had said, hey, I was watching this gay porn, not meaning it like gay porn, but gay as in dumb or annoying, because that's what the era was saying that. And the amount of silence that happened and fell across the space we were in and said, oh, your new nickname is gay porn. So to this day, I'm 35. My friends will still say, hey, GP, what's up, man? To this day. And I forever will never live down the name gay porn.
To this day.
The guy was homeschooled.
Oh, yeah. I was that wreck of a person who just craved attention.
I got to ask you.
Wherever it came from.
You don't know anything different when you're being homeschooled because you're not in school.
Right.
So you only know that. So with the pandemic and everything, all these kids are getting homeschooled. Do you remember it being, and I realize it's a different situation because the person at home wants to school you. You know what I mean?
Right. That was a choice that they made.
But was it something that you enjoyed, or would you have rather been blending in with the kids?
Well, the person who homeschooled me actually was my mom, and who didn't have a 9th grade education. So you can tell it was quite unique of where I grew up. So, a lot of mountain backdoor, bada-ding-ding type life.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Okay.
Yeah, that's, and the difference with the quote-unquote homeschooling going on now, it's like the kids still on Zoom, they're interacting with everyone else in their class, right? So even though, and kids are climbing out of their skin, and I get it, but, like, at least they still physically see the people they construe as their friends or classmates. It's like to be homeschooled because your parents choose to do it.
Right.
Like, you're not interacting with everybody else all day, right? So at least my kids are back in school, but when they weren't, at least when they went on Zoom, the other unhappy faces I saw, it was their buddies. And if nothing else, and I don't care what age you are, there's nothing better than being able to commiserate with like-minded people that understand your plight if you're not in a good frame of mind. Right. So, my son, he's bitching all his guy friends about how much it sucks, and they'd bitch back. And it's like, that camaraderie actually helped. I can't imagine if it's hey, we're going to homeschool, but you don't even see your friends. It's just us.
And homeschooling, I remember as a kid, there'd always be like the random kid that showed up and played on your baseball team.
Right.
That you didn't even know existed.
Right. And we always had this fantasy of like it was this and that, but they always had very strict parents, and they were like, no, we get up at this time and do this or that.
Right. That's like, one thing about homeschooling, dude.
Like it sucks.
And the couple of people I knew who did it, if I was in 8th grade, I'd always ask them what they were working on. They're like, algebra 2. And I'm like, well, I don't think you take that till 10th grade. Like, no, I'm advanced. Like the ones I knew were always
because they would take whatever the standardized test is, and you realize,
and they didn't stop in the summer. So there was always some schooling going on, no matter what the time of the year was. You know what I mean? Like it was continual. It was
homeschoolers and students like myself. Summer never stopped me either. They always invited me back for extra.
The problem is, man, I don't know what's worse, because I hear my wife. She was saying this to my son last night. There's some crap he has to memorize for school. He's like me. He doesn't care. He knows it's not important, but he'll get it done. Right? It's just one of those things. So my wife goes, "Look, man, you got to get this done." So she regales him with this tale. You have to understand, both of her parents are school teachers, all right? But her mom is the one you'd be terrified of. She does not play. So I'm hearing this last night for the first time. She's like, look, man, she had to memorize, or basically if you got detention, by the end of detention, I don't know if it was an hour or whatever the hell it was, but you had to memorize some long-ass poem. And not a poem that you're doing for school, just a random poem. So she's explaining this to my son, and she goes, and do you know who ran detention? Like, who? He goes, Nana, my mom. So when she got sent to detention, you're already in trouble because a different teacher, her mom's coworker, has sent your ass there. Mm-hmm. And then when you're there, they all had to memorize
Which is a ballsy move, by the way.
But not the same poem. They all had to memorize something different. So you couldn't, help each other out. And then my son said, well, how long did it take you to memorize? She goes, well, for me, exactly as long as your grandmother thought it should take. So the other kids had an hour. She's like, I might get 3 days. They weren't a good 3 days. Mm-hmm. It's just you had to do it. And I'm thinking, what would be worse? Going to school where one or both of my parents teach, or being homeschooled? And I think I would rather take homeschooling, because homeschooling, you're not a class clown at homeschool because it's just you and your parents, right? It is what it is. But in school, you can disrupt other kids, or you might get in a fight with another kid, or you might mess with the teacher, like that stuff. My mother worked at a college. I went there for 1 year. I won't go through the whole scenario, but I remember my mother pulled me aside by my collar and said, are you trying to get me fired? Those were exact words. I said, I'm not trying, but I might. But I can't guarantee it's not going to happen.
Good or bad, what about you from your past? Always gets brought up. 206-421-ROCK.
Hello, Sharon. Welcome to the men's room.
Hola, bicholas.
Hola.
So this is early 80s, and I'm a teenager driving my dad's farm truck, and he has an 800-gallon square metal gas tank in the back of his truck. So it's me and my friend and my dad, and we're going down the road, and we're taking it out to the field to fuel a truck, and we get to the end of the road. There's a four-way stop. I stop, and before I go, I look at my friend. I was like, punch it, Margaret, and I slams on the accelerator. I go through the intersection, and this big old gas tank slides out of the back of the truck into the middle of the intersection. It's half full. My friend yells, "Oh, F." I hit her. My dad leans forward around her and looks at me and says, "Punch it, Margaret," and gets out of the truck. I'm like, oh, man, I'm in so much trouble. I get out of the truck. My dad's standing in the middle of the intersection with his hands on his hips, looking at this thing and how we're going to get it back in the truck. Well, here comes this man down the road in a camper truck. It's like a camper on the back of the truck. He gets out. He's like in his Sunday best, white button-down shirt, dress pants, shiny cowboy boots. Well, he helps my dad tip this thing so I can back the truck up to it so then they can continue and push it back up onto the truck. So we get this accomplished, and they step back, and this poor man, who we had no idea who he was, to stop and help us, looks like he's just crawled through an oil field in his Sunday vest. So now anytime I'm driving or I'm passing or acceleration is involved, I get the phrase, "Punch it, Margaret," from somebody in the vehicle.
So that's probably not a good idea for you to do that then. You know?
No.
Punch it, Margaret.
I do give it to you. That old farm truck had some get up and go.
Okay.
I like that. That's what you got to. Hey, man, this ride has got some get up and go. We got some comments here about homeschooling. Someone says, here's an example of what's wrong with homeschooling. 3 years ago, I met a guy who was 22 years old. He was homeschooled. He didn't know who Ronald Reagan was. Knew absolutely nothing about the presidency of Ronald Reagan or any president prior to Reagan. Reagan was elected in 1980. So everyone elected before that, no idea. His parents were selective in teaching him history. Someone else says, I had a friend who was homeschooled. His dad used to make him mow the lawn for Jim. I like that.
That's not bad. You get it done.
And then the other side, my best friend was homeschooled. He graduated high school at age 17, college bachelor's in computer science at age 19 years old, a professor at the college at 20 years old. He traveled the country while being homeschooled.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm with Miles. I think all the homeschool kids I ever played sports with were like ahead of us.
Yeah. Oh, easily, man. Because, I mean, you look, with public schools, they do what they can. Inevitably, there's two things. A lot of parents just want you to babysit, and after the kids being home, I get it. I don't care what you teach them. Get them out of the house. The flip side of it is they have all these federal regulations, right, to continue their funding and blah, blah, blah. So they have to find a way. And the federal regulations, generally speaking, their heart's in the right place, but they're very stupid. They're very petty. And it ain't about making you smart. So these teachers, assuming they're teaching because they want to be teachers, right, they're always stuck with this thing like, we would like to teach you, but to get our federal funding, it's not just about making you smart. You just need to do these things.
You need to be in this curriculum to be able to pass this test that you need to take at the end of the year, because those tests determine how much funding the school district gets or the school gets.
And it's such a weird thing. In 10th grade, my English teacher, we walked into class, he looked pissed off. Looking back, I understand why. But we had one of the standardized tests coming up. And for English, one of the things that the test asked you to do was a memorable event in your life, and then you wrote a small essay about it. Okay, so he read us two different essays. And one was actually incredible. It was a 10th grade girl. I don't know where she was from. I don't know if she was in Baltimore or wherever, but he read it, and she was an immigrant from whatever country, man, and she is recounting in amazing detail what it was like to basically get off the plane. I'm in a new country, all this stuff, what the adjustment, all this incredible stuff. The other one was someone witnessed a car crash, and it was a pretty big deal car crash. The one that involved the car crash, from the first word until the last word, there was not a single piece of punctuation, right? Even though in their mind, it's a bunch of different, no punctuation. The tenses were wrong. Everything about it was just poor, horrible English, right? That person passed. The person who had perfect punctuation and described, their whole thing about coming to the States, they did not pass. And there was one subtle difference, and I can't remember what it was, but the teacher basically just said, look, this is about getting federal funding. So as your English teacher, I want you to be smart. The government's not asking you to do that. So he said, just write some crap. But he was being honest. He said,
write some crap.
But he gave us the examples and said, look, if you put effort into this, they do not care. You just need to use basically as many adjectives as you can. So everybody did, and this is Baltimore City. Everyone's a freaking moron anyway. But these kids, they passed this test with flying colors. They got their federal funding. I mean, like, if you read this in a book, you'd be like, you've got to be kidding me. Who wrote this crap? But, I mean, that's what you're up against, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it. Teachers just like, look, I want you to be smarter. The Fed doesn't. So, hey, dummy, just write a sentence.
Good or bad, what about you from your past always gets brought up. 206-421-ROCK.
This podcast is brought to you by the Washington State Department of Health. As we continue to listen, learn, and grow, we are amplifying Black voices and perspectives in an effort to start a new COVID-19 vaccine conversation. We're sharing stories intended to help us navigate this unprecedented time together and to co-create solutions in support of the Black community. Hear these stories at weconsiderwa.org.
$20 million, $19 million, $6 million. These are all awards recovered for clients of Phillips Law Firm. To win big, you have to fight big. And Phillips Law has been fighting the too-big-to-fail insurance industry for decades. Not every case will have a multi-million-dollar outcome, but Phillips Law will fight just as hard to recover the outcome you deserve. If you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or on the job, call or click today at 1-800-JUSTICE or visit justiceforyou.com.
Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance? Of course you would. And when it comes to great rates on insurance, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners or renters coverage. Plus, add an easy-to-use mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance, and more, and Geico is an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com or contact your local agent today.
You're in the men's room. 99.9 KISW and KISW HD1 Seattle.
Our question, good or bad, what about you from your past, always gets brought up. 206-421-ROCK.
It's funny, we were talking about homeschooling, right? Everyone has a different opinion. We had Monica called, and she's been homeschooling her kids for like 10 years. She just wanted to set the record straight, but then she dropped off.
Wow.
Maybe she hung up. Teach you how to use a phone.
I can't teach these guys anything.
I like this. So we asked, good or bad, what's the one thing about your past that always gets brought up? This person says, I cramped on my roommate's couch. Now I'm poopy.
That's going to last for a while.
That is going to last for the rest of your life. Partly because your roommate is still annoyed about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know it could be 20 years later. It's like, dude, you took a dump on my couch.
I was telling Steve the other day, and this is going to get brought up for the rest of my niece's life. But they both did this spelling bee. And it was, at the start, it was like, maybe 6 or 7 schools in the area. Grades were like from 3rd until 6th.
So it's just what, like statewide, citywide?
No, it was like, maybe the 5, 6 schools that were in their area. So my 2 nieces make it to the finals. All right. And then they get up there, and it ends up, and they're 2 years apart. But my 2 nieces are the last 2 people standing in the spelling bee. All right. So my younger of the 2 nieces, Peachy, she wins.
All right.
And I mean, the look of the picture that I saw that she shot her sister, who was 2 years older.
Yeah.
Who was this, smart kid. They're both smart. But Peachy won.
Peachy's a little smarter.
She has not stopped talking about this now for a month. Like, I talked to her on the phone last weekend. Now, I talked to her on the phone the weekend before that and the weekend before that, because she always wants to say hi, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool. But she's bringing it up every time. This will never go away. They'll be 80 years old and sitting in a rocking chair. And Peachy will bring up the time that she beat her ass in a spelling bee when she was in 3rd grade or whatever. I mean, it's just, she will not stop talking about the fact that she beat her sister. I cannot imagine living in that home.
How old are they right now?
I don't know, 8 and 10, something.
Okay, it's as bad as it's going to be.
Like, it's just, well, it's never going to stop.
No.
It's never going to stop.
I mean, look, I told you before, my whole family's obsessed with baseball.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get braggy and be like, in T-ball, I had an unassisted... T-ball. Unassisted triple play.
Okay.
Very rare. But as I say that out loud...
T-ball.
I know, but as I say that out loud, somewhere my brother just heard me say, and it's like, yeah, but the first time he batted, he ran to 3rd base.
Oh no.
Sure. Every time.
Right. Well, T-ball's confusing. Good or bad, what about you from your past always gets brought up. 206-421-ROCK.
That's what made the triple play so easy, Miles.
Yes.
Kids don't know when to run and stop running.
Where to go.
Throw him out of 3rd. Yeah. That's where he started, but still. Hello, Dane. Welcome to the men's room.
Hello.
Hola.
Hola.
So, Dane, what about you from your past always gets brought up?
The one thing that gets brought up the most from my past is I outran 2 canine units when we got pulled over on Hilltop with a tapped keg in the back seat, and we were 17.
Okay.
Okay, no, wait. So you say we, but you outran the canine units, meaning you just left the other guys to get in trouble?
Not really. I gave the cops my ID and said everything in the car was mine. And I actually ran right before I realized that 2 canine units pulled around the corner.
So, but the cops have your ID, so they know who you are, right?
Yes.
So all they got to do is drive to your house where you run to, correct?
Well, I ended up that weekend moving out of my dad's house and moving into my mom's house just so they couldn't track me down.
That was your motivation to move?
That pretty much was.
Okay. And they never caught you?
Damn.
Yeah.
They have your they have your car. You have your driver's license.
Right.
They have the keg. They have all that stuff. And they went to your dad's house. Where your address is. And he goes, I don't know where he is.
Pretty much.
You know why? Because the cops don't care.
Because your dad didn't want you to live with him either. That's why. He was just happy
that is partially it. But
yeah.
I had a half ounce of weed on me, which of course was illegal at the time. Because we're talking 17 years ago now.
Well, at 17, it's still illegal to have a half
yeah.
ounce of weed on you.
Yeah. When I had 3 hits of ecstasy on me, and I, of course, popped 2 of them, and I had no water or anything. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting out, and they got all of us sitting on the side street or on the sidewalk, and they're eyeballing all of us. And of course I'm stupid, and I'm wearing a big medallion that says blunt on it. And they basically tell me, we're gonna search everything. You guys have to pump out the keg or whatever. And I already told them everything was mine. So I said, all right. I whispered to my buddy, I go, I'm going to run in 3 seconds. Do you want to come with me? He goes, no. Counted down. I ended up taking off running. 2 canine units pull around the corner. They release the canines. And I'm already on the way. I have no idea this is even going on until I hear them barking right behind me.
Did you ever get your car back?
It wasn't my car. It was my girlfriend's. Okay. The reason why we got pulled over is because we had the tap keg in the back seat, and we were trying to be smart. We put a coat over the tap keg and put the hood over the keg.
They'll never figure that out.
We had somebody sitting in between the keg and the passenger seat, and yeah, they knew right away.
Was that the only time in your life that you've ever had to deal with the cops?
Oh, no, definitely not.
More times after that?
Oh, yeah.
Did you live in Hilltop?
No. I was up there. I had the keg because I was trying to sell cups at a party. I was selling weed at the time, and I was like, okay, we're going to sell some cups. Well, nobody's going to buy cups at a high school party. So we heard of this college party down the street. We were trying to move the tap keg to this college party where I could make some money. And yeah.
I like that you're very enterprising.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll give you that. Like, you kind of understand the conditions and go, all right, well, this is where you go to make money.
Okay. All right.
I mean, look, man, anytime the cops showed up, we ran. As a guarantee. It didn't always got away, but it was never like, oh, man, the cops are here, stop doing blank. It's 5-0, and we were gone, and no one ran the same direction. It's just like, we'll meet up later, right? We kind of know where our safe house is, so to speak, but, like, I'm not hanging out, man. Especially in Baltimore, I'm like, you don't have to commit a crime to get arrested here, bro. I'm leaving, man.
Sometimes, too, like, trying to... Like, right, if you don't live in Hilltop and you're cruising around there at nighttime and you're teenagers...
You're suspicious.
Right, like, you're going to stick out.
Have you been to Hilltop?
Yeah.
Do you have a bar you recommend?
I don't know. That's a good question. I've been to the corner store there.
Okay.
The corner store. You recommend the corner store? If you go to any bodega.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
I will say this, at least in my experience in Baltimore, I don't know here, but anytime the cops showed up, not just for me, but for anyone, they could threaten anything they want. People kept running, right? Because we're going to shoot you. It didn't matter because they're going to shoot you back. If they said we're going to let the dog go, I mean, people stopped dead in their tracks. The dogs were the scariest thing, and this worked to my benefit. I ended up, quote unquote, adopting a dog from an old lady that found a stray. The woman explained to me on the phone, she kept calling it a puppy. Right? Well, I was working at the convention center, and we had really bad storms, and it came in, and it was all wet, and so I took it home. But I'm just too old for this. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll take this puppy off your hand. It was a full-grown dog. This is a big-ass Belgian Shepherd. His head's the size of a football, right? Terrifying when you first see him, but the sweetest. This dog wouldn't bite anything. So I ended up adopting this dog, but everyone there, and I realized this works your benefit. People say, hey, man, is that a retired canine dog? I'm like, yep. And the reaction to people, I mean, you got a wide berth, man, all the time. This dog would have never been able to train to be a police dog. This dog was so dumb, so kind, scared of everything. But if people ask, I'm like, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And everyone, they just backed off.
Good or bad, what about you from your past always gets brought up. 206-421-ROCK.
Hello, Joe. Welcome to the men's room.
Hola, bitches.
Hola.
So Mike said get to the point. So what happened is when I was in high school, well, it was an alternative high school because I got kicked out of my first high school. I left that out. So Mike can get mad at me about that. But there was a gym teacher that was teaching what's called Tai Chi, which is a slow motion martial arts.
Yeah, it's slow motion kung fu. If you fight old people.
Well, the guy sat there and said, "Oh, you could put me in a chokehold and I can get out of it." And I was like, "No, you can't. If you let me put you in this chokehold, you're going down." And he says, "I guarantee you I can get out of it." And I said, "All right, you promise I'm not going to get in trouble?" And he let me lock this chokehold in, and I says, "All right, you make the count. You count down to 3 and tell me to go." And he counted down to 3, and I locked that dude up, turned him purple, and dropped him to the ground in about 5 seconds. And he laid there for about 20 more, and then woke up shaking. And so that's all of my friends are like, "Dude," when I go back to Detroit, all of my friends are like, "Dude, do you remember dropping that teacher?"
Of course you do.
Yes,
you dropped a teacher.
They all remember as well, right?
Yeah, I remember that too, man.
Do you remember when you dropped that teacher?
Which one? Like, yeah. Of course I do.
Oh, God.
It was a teacher. I charged him. Mike, by the way, I like the fact that the guy's like, hey, Mike told me to get to the point, which he was pretty good, but telling us that defeats what you just told him.
Just a little bit.
Good or bad, what about you from your past? Always gets brought up, 206-421-ROCK. But he's a listener.
He was dying to ramble.
He listens.
That sounds like a country song. Dying to ramble.
I've been married for 35 years. Now it's time to ramble.
Like a video I saw the other day. Like, why would you bring that back up and say that?
Right.
You know what Fine. You were told to get to the point. Guess I can't bring up the point. No, you can't.
Just get there, man. Hello, Maggie. Welcome to the men's room.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. So I've never actually called into a radio show, but this one was meant for me, I guess.
All right. We're glad to have you.
21 years old and a female, mind you. I was kicked out of a bar in a small town. Had to pee really bad because, So I went back to the parking lot behind the bar because they wouldn't let me back in, and I tried. And, squatted down behind a car between my car and another car, and turns out it was a cop.
Oh, no. Was he in his vehicle?
Which, mind you, for a female is no small feat, and being intoxicated is even worse. But, I was doing my thing and stood up, zipped up, and the lights came on, and he got out. And the worst part of the story is I didn't remember any of this. So the next day, a couple weeks later, I was home, and my dad got a letter in the mail with a failure to appear in court because he had written me a paper ticket while I was intoxicated. So I had to go appear in front of a judge for urinating in public with my dad present, who was a state patrolman.
Oh.
I'm now 38 years old, and this is like everyone's favorite story.
I mean, to be fair, look, man, even if I'm a cop, my kid gets in trouble with the law. If it's for peeing in public, and granted, you did it next to a cop car, a little more extreme, but I'm okay with that. There's a million reasons the law might bring if that is the one, I'm like, I am okay. I would lie to the cop and be like, yeah, I'll talk to him. Otherwise, hide behind a tree, bro.
I just think it's worse because her dad's a cop.
Right. That does not help.
Yeah. My ticket was like $35
for peeing
public urination, yeah.
How much did it cost you for peeing that in public?
It was $64.
Okay.
And the judge asked if I wanted to make payment arrangements or not, and I was like, no, I'll just pay here.
You said it was a small town. Was this like the bar in the town?
It was a very small town.
So basically, everyone knew also that you would pee next to the cop car.
Well, yeah, after the word.
Did you ever? Were you ever allowed back into this one bar in your one small town?
Oh, yeah, I've drank there.
Okay. All right.
Well, it's the beauty of a small town. Like, we'd kick you out for now.
Look, man, just get your crap together.
You gotta leave right now. Yeah. We'll see you tomorrow.
I think most bars, you can get 86 from it, but if you get barred for life, you've done something bad.
Done something really, really
Probably
bad.
a pretty hefty tab. Good or bad, what about you from your past? Always gets brought up, 206-421-ROCK. Speaking of that, you guys ever go to a bar, small hometown bar, where it was just understood that the person's name was up there for one of two reasons. That was they were barred from the bar, if you saw their card, or they had a tab. So like one
just
bar
open, yeah.
They had an open tab. and then they paid whatever they got for every Friday on their paycheck. You know, like you just sit there and get the tab. All right, $70 for the week, Earl. All right, here you go.
But the thing is, they always pay. They've been doing this for 20 years, and they're like, look, you can trust the guy because he's here every night. You know he's not going to do anything other than come to the bar. And it's, in my younger days, there were maybe 3 bars in Baltimore where I could get away with that. But what I understood, and I was not particularly responsible for a lot of things, but I would always make sure those bar tabs got paid. And between me and 2 of my buddies, just the way our work or our paydays fell down. They're like, look, you cover this one, I'll cover the next one, because we both got paid every other week, but it ended up being every week. But these bartenders knew, man, and because they always did you a solid, they were like, what are your paid dates? And we'd give them like 6 weeks out, this day, and they're like, all right, look, we will give you this open tab, man. We go there, 6 out of 7 days a week. And they're like, but on this day, your payday, right, you need to show up and pay. And we always did, but we got that hookup for like 3 years.
The messed up thing about it was that these guys who did that, who I knew, they were older at the time. I mean, I was younger. Yeah. But anyway, they would pay in cash, okay?
Yeah.
Up until a point. But the way that they would do it is they would come in, and every one of them would put their cash on the bar, all right? And the bartender would just take the money from their pile of money every time they ordered a drink. And when their money was gone,
you're done drinking.
And then that's when it went on the tab.
But it's like a game show. Oh, you're down to $15.
But I do remember this. They never tipped. Because basically when the money was gone, And then okay, well, I'll pay you on Friday. Well, it might have been a different bartender than the one that was in there on.
Our trick was they would all put in 20s, and then we would just change them. So we would only actually physically charge them for like a beer. So they would leave the pile there thinking, and they would always say take 20%, but we were taking like 80.
Right.
And also, I will say this. Those guys, we didn't run them a tab, and I've never had a tab anywhere, but I have definitely lived near bars that I frequented enough where they didn't always take my card and gone back in for, say, a Sunday brunch. You're like, hey, jackass, you walked out on your tab last night. Like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's definitely, you wouldn't walk back in if that was your intent. You know what I mean?
There's one bar fairly close by.
Yeah.
Where I've done that. I've done it twice. Right?
Twice?
Yeah, man. And we finished work.
I don't know why I looked at it. Which other one would it be?
But go in there, man, and just get housed, right? And you don't think about it. And but you go in the next night, because when they're open, we're pretty consistent. And the one dude who you met first.
Yeah.
I remember he rolls in, hey, brother. I'm like, what's going on, man? He's like, bro, you didn't pay your tab last night. It's like, you're pretty messed up, so I didn't even stop you.
Yeah.
I said, man, just attitude tonight. And so, how do you feel? I'm like, I feel like I need hair of the dog, but good looking out. But I've done it twice. I feel bad, man.
Good or bad? No, you don't. What about you from your past always gets brought up? 206-421-ROCK.
I'm saying that in case they're listening. I feel awful.
Dude, I told you, when I lived in Belltown.
Right now, there's 10 different bars going, yes, you should. Not one.
When I lived in Belltown, all the time on Sunday, around 11 or noon, there'd be people just freaking out. I walked down on my tab. Do you know where this bar is or whatever? It's right over there. Yeah. Are they cool? You'll be all right. You're not the first.
Right. That's why
you're going there to pay.
Right. They already charged you. Of course they have your card.
That's why the bartender takes that card first and foremost. You want to start the tab, and then you see the people walking the next day.
Give me your card.
I left my card here last night.
We know.
What's your name? Start going through the Rolodex.
Yeah, they got 18 of them.
Bank of America red card. Here you go, brother. Yeah. No, don't have to worry about it. Already put 25% on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Good or bad? What about you from your past? Always gets brought up. 206-421-ROCK.
Hello, Crisanta. Welcome to the men's room.
Hola.
Hola.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
So, I'm doing okay. Just waiting for my dude to get off work. So this happened back in April of 1992, where I was 11 years old, and I had just moved here to Tacoma from a farm in Eatonville. So, my mom thought it would be smart for me to start baseball tryouts. I was like, okay, I could do that. Well, the coach was really, really impressed. I was able to hit about 75 to 100 yards. He called me his little power hitter. And me being only 4 feet tall and 70 pounds, because I have such upper strong strength, I was able to hit a ball pretty well. I couldn't catch anything. But so the coach was so impressed with me that he called the local news, and had somebody come down and was like, I'm really impressed with this little girl. She's so tiny. You guys got to get a picture of her. So during our training, before we were set to do a game, the photographer is out, and I see my coach, and he's like, hey, honey, come over here and hit these balls and show them how hard you can hit. I'm like, okay. So one after the other, I'm power hitting one after the other. I was just really good at hitting. But then I started getting nervous because the photographer was getting a little too close to me, and it was like bugging me out. And he was like right in front of me, so all I could see is like this flash at me. And so my coach was getting a little concerned, and he came up and he was just like, okay, honey, what you want to do is you want to swing it with your hip. Swing it with your hip and take your body with you. I'm like, okay. Well, without paying attention, I went whap, and I knocked my coach unconscious.
Good times. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Right?
Yeah.
But here, the funniest part is the photographer, he got the impact. He got the impact swing to the coach's head.
Oh, you should get that frame.
That made front page
All
of the
right.
Tacoma News Tribune.
All right.
Yeah.
Now that I love that.
It's all about the headline, though.
That's great.
That could have written that violent young girl moves to town.
Right? And, like, they couldn't brag about, like, this up-and-coming little female, power hitter. No, it's got to be this crazy little 11-year-old just whacks the coach in the head with a baseball bat. Everybody laughed until this day. I'm 40 years old. Until this day, I cannot live it down. Every time I see a family member, especially like my dad, he's like, hey, honey, you remember that time you hit the coach?
Can you
really?
Can you still swing a baseball bat?
No.
Okay.
I gave that up a long time ago.
I appreciate the honesty.
What about you from your past? Always gets brought up. We've got your emails coming up next in the men's room at KISW.com.